future, talk radio will actually educate, inspire, and make you think. The future is now. Topics and music that affect your life from Universal Broadcasting Network. Tune in at ubnradio.com.
She's passionate about telling stories of amazing women who are rocking the world and empowering women to live, love, and thrive. Here's your host, Catherine Gray.
Hey, welcome to Live, Love, Thrive Women's Empowerment Hour, brought to you by 360karma.com. We are so fortunate today to have on one of Time Magazine's most 100 influential people in alternative medicine, and that is Dr. Holly Lucille. And then later in the show, we are going to be talking with Katrina Deaton. She's a transplant here in LA from Philadelphia, and she's a fantastic filmmaker and writer. So stay tuned for that. And now, please give a warm welcome to Dr. Holly. Hi, Dr. Holly. How are you?
Catherine, I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Something woo-woo's going on here. My phone's not working. Your phone's not working. We were trying to go live. And what is that? I heard Mercury's in retrograde. I know a lot of people don't believe in that, but something's up.
I bank on it every time because it usually saves me a trip to the Apple Genius Bar if I can just go, okay, I'm just going to wait for this time to pass. But yeah, something is going on.
It is.
We'll just have to enjoy the ride.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, I am thrilled to have you on, and I want to talk about, what was your journey into becoming a doctor of holistic medicine and integrative medicine, especially since I know you grew up in the Midwest with two pharmacists as parents.
Yeah, I think that was it. I'm a licensed naturopathic doctor, proud to be one. And that's just, if you look at naturopathic medicine, I'll just give a brief sort of description. If we compare it to conventional Western medicine, we use principles like identify and treat the cause. So not just suppression of symptoms, but we really want to get into the root of what's going on.
So what you're saying usually in Western medicine is that we just try to cover up what we're feeling. Like, in other words, we feel pain, take a pill, get rid of the pain. But in integrative medicine, in Eastern medicine, it's more like, well, let's get to the root of what the pain is and cure that.
Yes.
Right?
That's a good point. In Western conventional reductionistic medicine, and there's value in all systems of medicine, I say that.
Yes.
But the scope of practice is more sort of reductionistic, just reducing you to a lab test or a diagnosis or a symptom you're having and just focusing on that symptom. In naturopathic medicine, treat the whole person, identify and treat the cause, use the least invasive methods to diagnose and treat first. And I have a license to practice primary care here in California. And so we still have that ability to practice medicine, to understand pathophysiology and microbiology and all those great things.
Yeah.
So yes.
Did you have coffee this morning?
I did not. I am completely off of caffeine.
You are excited about this,
yes,
aren't you?
I always am. So yeah, but I did. I grew up in the Midwest, the daughter of two pharmacists.
Yeah.
And I was really well versed, even as a young child, of here, take this.
Yeah.
If something was wrong, here, take this.
Yeah.
And
I think that was our culture growing up in our age group.
Yes.
Growing up, it was always take the antibiotics, get out the Z-Pack if you have a little something going on.
Yes.
Which could have been the worst thing for us, killing. Yeah, right?
Well, and like I said, I think there's a place for everything.
Yeah.
But I, even as a young child, I sort of just butt up against that. I would bother my parents and I'd ask questions like, well, why? What's it going to do for me? Is there anything I could eat that would make me feel better?
Right.
Like even as a youngster.
Yeah.
And so then I got involved in nursing. That's where I went to be a bachelor degree nurse. And I drove my instructors crazy just like I felt like I drove my parents crazy with the same line of questioning.
Yeah.
And I thought, of course, it's just me. Common denominator is I'm the troublemaker, I'm the rabble-rouser, I can't be satisfied until I found the American Holistic Nursing Association.
Yeah.
And it was then.
I think a lot of people don't even know that exists.
It's a great organization.
Yeah.
And it was then when I went to their post-grad sort of thingy that I felt like my soul came home for the very first time as an adult, a young adult.
So growing up in the Midwest, your parents' pharmacists, you were always kind of questioning that, just like innately as a kid, you thought, isn't there a better way? Isn't there something alternative? Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was like I almost was born to think more universal terms,
Yeah.
more comprehensive ways of thinking through things.
Because people think there's only one way, like, oh, there's only Western medicine. And people think, I think that Eastern medicine, a lot of people, more and more people are opening up to it, but I think they're thinking it's kind of woo-woo. I don't know why, why can't we be open-minded to all different types
Right.
of, approaching things with health? I don't know, what does it hurt us to open up our minds to the possibility
Yes.
that there are better or different or other ways of doing things?
Using our minds
Yeah.
is a beautiful thing, and I think
Yeah.
opening them up a little bit.
Yeah.
Because as I've said before, I think there's value in all systems of medicine. They're just different.
Yeah.
And if you really, I always say, hey, do you have a primary care provider? And I think everybody should say yes, because everybody should be primarily in charge of providing care for themselves. It's really our responsibility. I got in a horrible motorcycle accident. I was very thankful for
Right.
Western medicine and all of the advances. And I
Right.
think there's a place and time for everything.
I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah.
So you had a horrific motorcycle accident
did.
that you almost didn't walk away from.
That's correct. Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then that laid you up for a long while. Do you still motorcycle ride?
I do.
Everybody I know that has these terrible accidents, they go back to it.
I bought the exact same motorcycle that
Wow.
I crashed.
I don't know if that's crazy or brave.
I've been riding motorcycles since I was in second
So
grade.
it's like in your blood.
It
yeah.
is.
So you almost died from it, and then your road back was a combination of Western and Eastern medicine? Because I know
Well,
you're a big practitioner of both, right?
yes.
Of integrating it.
Integrating it, exactly. I
Mm-hmm.
think the integration of all the options out there for folks, as long as you're keeping that person's best interest in mind.
Yes.
Sometimes a hip replacement is the best integrative medicine that you can do at the time.
Right.
If I have somebody who's coming to see me who's like, I've got this pain, but I'm going to take curcumin, evidence-based as far as being a great anodyne and treating pain.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, if I look at the scans and I'm like, I think you need a hip replacement, that could be a recommendation from me based on that person's needs.
Right.
So
I
there
wonder
is a
what
place for everything.
So what about in Eastern medicine? Like, let's say when they couldn't do a hip replacement at some point back in time, or even maybe today, what would they have recommended? Like, what would be the alternative to getting the hip replacement? Like,
That's a great question.
yeah, I would love to know that answer
Right, so
myself. You
think
would
about-
too, right?
You think about modalities though, like in traditional Chinese medicine, so
Yeah.
acupuncture.
Yeah.
Now, and then perhaps somebody at that point in time, bone on bone, no cartilage left, would have to live with that. But I think mitigating the pain and also increasing quality of life, people would do
That's
things.
why you would integrate it, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. So you were going along being a nurse, and at what point did you decide that you wanted to take it a step further and be a homeopathic doctor?
Yeah, so naturopathic doctor.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
what-
naturopathic. Yep, that's what I meant.
Homeopathy is wonderful. Like cures like,
Yeah.
so it's a whole school of medicine.
Yeah. As long as it's not a psychopathic doctor.
Yeah, it's not a psychopathic doctor. I've been called a lot of things. Yeah, I love that. Well, through the American Holistic Nursing Association, I found out about naturopathic medicine. And at that time, there were 4 schools. So I went and I visited Bastyr and the National College up in Portland, Oregon. And
Right.
I'd lived in Midwest most of my life, and I didn't
Yeah.
really want to be in that climate. So
Yeah.
I found the Southwest College of Naturopathic Medicine in Tempe, Arizona. And I was living out here in Los Angeles at the time, and I thought, you know what, it's my time. I'm going to do it. I'm going to go. And so I went back to school. I think I was 31 years old and went 4 years full year round. I did sort of
Wow.
2 back-to-back internship residencies
Yeah.
with people that I really wanted to study further with.
That's great.
And
Never
then-
too old to live the dream.
Yeah, and then I came back and started my practice here.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
And you love doing it.
I love doing
Yeah.
it. I do so many things. I've had a blessed career with it being very diversified. But one of the favorite things I do is to be able to sit with somebody and say, tell me what's going on because I want to know how I can help.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite things to do.
Yeah, and then actually seeing the progress.
The outcomes.
Yeah.
That's probably even better.
I know that you've been on The Doctors and Dr. Oz. That's really prestigious. I mean, they don't just have anybody on. So when you were on those shows, what were the topics of expertise that they had you talking about specifically with regard to holistic health?
So the little doctor's piece was on lavender, and mostly in aromatherapy, and the medicinal benefits of that. So aromatherapy has been around for a long time,
Yeah.
and lavender has been proven in clinical studies once again to have that relaxation, that anti-anxiety, and there's actually a oral preparation of lavender that you can take. So orally, you can.
So you don't have to sniff it.
It's called Lavella.
Yeah, because I don't really like sniffing that stuff.
Well,
yeah.
you take it orally, and I mean the
And it's
study.
relaxing.
Well, it's used for anti-anxiety, and on
It's
the
like,
Hamilton
wait a minute,
rating scale.
are you telling me this is like a natural Quaalude?
This is like a natural. This is like a natural Xanax.
Relaxing. Oh, like a natural Xanax.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's called Selexin, I believe, over in the UK, and of course, over in the UK, they're far ahead of us when it
Right.
comes to some of these more natural interventions that are effective. But
And
yes.
because stress is what causes cancer and all these diseases, I would
Contributing
think it would
factor,
be
for sure.
great that
Yeah.
lavender is like this nice natural relaxant.
Yeah.
Right?
That's right. It really is. And then on on Dr. Oz, we did talk about stress and the different kind of ways that women manifest stress. Whether you sort of are a brooder and you hold it in, or if you get sort of chaotic about it, or you're an exploder.
Yeah.
And then things that we can do for each individual to help that. One of them was an adaptogen, which is a kind of plant medicine that helps you adapt to stressors. So
Wow.
I call it fuse lengtheners. It kind of lengthens your fuse, because when we're overly stressed,
Yeah.
we have a decrease in stress
short-
resistance. We
short
have a short
fuse,
fuse.
yeah.
So things like ashwagandha and rhodiola, we talked about with Dr. Oz.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
You know, I read somewhere that stress is not a real thing. It's the way we perceive things.
Sure.
And I'm a big believer in that. Like, you can take two different people and put them in traffic, and we know we have plenty of that here in LA, and one person reacts differently than the other, all based on perception. I read a book about this, about, how you don't, get angry in traffic is you don't perceive it as being something that gives you angst, or all these stupid people, or whatever you're telling yourself. But instead, take your focus off of that and just say everybody's doing the best they can, and I think I'll put on some music and relax, and I'll get there when I get there.
Right.
And like, that's how we have to handle it.
Yeah.
So perception is such a huge part of it.
How we perceive it, and
Yeah.
also how we respond to it or
Yeah.
react to it.
Right. And I think how we react or respond is in direct correlation to how we perceive it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of my mentors, Pema Chodron, the Buddhist monk, I think she has said, and it might have been a teacher of hers that said, we have more projections than there are dust mites in a sunbeam. Meaning, that's all we have is who we are, how we've learned to perceive things.
Yes.
And then we project out on the world. So if somebody has been like, oh, this is found time, I could listen to my podcast, or I can listen to my book on tape,
Yeah.
because I'm driving home and it's going to take me 15 minutes later.
Right.
That's their reality.
Yeah.
But if somebody's like, why are you moving, and like
Yeah.
all amped up,
Yeah.
sometimes like me, it's because how did we learn to behave?
Speaking of that, I have a friend that commutes every day, like an hour or hour and a half to work each day, and she does tell me she listens to our Live, Love, Thrive podcast. So
That's awesome.
that is a way that more and more people are passing their time in the car, is listening to a podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah, that's relaxing and informative, hopefully,
Sure.
or entertaining, and
You can
yeah.
either be a victim or a creative, a sort of a creative response to what's going
Yeah,
on.
because when else do you have time to listen to stuff, or a book or whatever? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and I know you, besides being a motorcycle rider, you're also a guitar player. I love that, the rocker doctor. I just came to see you and your partner at Molly Malone's.
Molly Malone's, we
She
played.
is so talented, your wife.
Yes, she's my wife.
Oh my gosh, she's such a talented songwriter and
Thank you.
singer, and
I agree.
so enjoyed it. But you were up there with her, rocking out with the band on your guitar.
Bass
I'm
guitar.
like, you go, girl.
I hold down the low end.
Yeah, I like
So-
that. Is that so fun?
It's so much fun.
Yeah.
It's so fun to have a balance in life and to
I was
work.
just going to say that.
Yeah.
You just read my mind. I was going to say you have such a balance in life because you're doing all these amazing things work work-wise, got this great relationship, and you're having fun.
Yeah.
You're doing your motorcycles and playing your guitar and having a great time.
Yeah, I appreciate that. It's taken me a long time to get to that place. I
Yeah.
think I was driven and sort of got myself into trouble and different aspects of being driven and not having fun.
Right.
And, sort of taking care of myself on the surface, but not really taking care of all of me. And
I think this is very common, and I don't want to brush over it because I think it's so important to our listeners, who are a lot of them are middle-aged us,
Yes, middle-aged us.
We're being kind to ourselves here, and that too many people are just so all consumed by their career and their finance building and whatnot, and how important it is to have that balance to not only our happiness but our productivity. If you slow down and you're doing things that you love, you are actually going to be way more productive in your business life. Burnout doesn't do anybody any good. So that balance is something that's got to be a priority. And the one good thing about this is it is all a choice, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah.
And I think every path has its pace. I think certainly with age we earn that sort of wisdom, and we're like, okay, I've seen this before.
Yeah.
And we can settle in a little bit more. But there's something to say about getting to a point where enough is enough as far as you want to make a living, but just have fun and have a balance and be able to give back, but be able to connect and be intimate. And not intimate in a sexual way whatsoever, but intimate.
Although
with
that's not
people.
bad either.
No, well, that is part of the pie, right? We got to have a
part of the
sliver
balance.
everything. But being intimate and getting off of our phones and actually talking to people,
Yes,
or being
being
intimate
present.
with yourself by having a journaling session, or reading, or listening to something that provokes you in a way that you haven't been provoked before, like a new podcast. And so, I feel like that intimacy with each other is starting to sort of, be something of the past, just because of all of our gadgets, and we're so connected yet disconnected from ourselves and from each other. And I want to sort of start cultivating that intimacy back into my life in way more than just like popping on a Facebook thread and throwing my opinion out there, know.
I think a lot of people poo-poo Facebook, and I think there are good things
it's all
about
about
it.
the user.
Yeah, I think there are
It's all about the
positive things
user.
about, hey, it's so nice that I get to keep up with my friend got a new dog, or they lost a parent, or hey, there's an event coming up. I think it's a great way for us to perpetuate community.
Yes.
But I do think it's detrimental when people spend too much time on it or use it in a negative way.
Yeah.
And there is a lot of that because it can be also draining or a real time suck.
Yeah, and I feel like what I've noticed as well is that people tend to be a little bit more courageous when they're, got the mighty screen in front of them, saying things that I bet you they would never say to a human being's face,
right,
about a subject or about that person, and that's what's tearing me up, really.
Yeah, it's got to be used in a positive way, but that goes
it's all
for
about
just
the
about
user.
everything.
Yeah.
It's all about the user. I like that.
Yeah.
So, what's next for you? I know you do a radio show.
Do a podcast called Mindful Medicine.
How can people? Is that on your website?
That is, it's on my website and also iTunes. So it drops every Tuesday.
Okay.
My goal with that show
And
is
the name of the show is
Mindful Medicine.
Mindful Medicine, and they can also get it at drhollylucille.com.
Yep, drhollylucille.com. That's just DR. So opening up your own mind and trying to sift through all the information and sometimes misinformation and certainly misguided marketing techniques that are out there, and being able to really think things through to make good choices for each individual and their family is my goal. Like, let's think this through. It's kind of been my tagline. Like,
I'd like to hear some success stories, like just, you don't have to put names to it, but like some people that have come to you with a specific type of ailment that someone on my show might be listening and say, oh my God, I have that ailment. So like, what was the ailment and what was the solution that could be handled holistically as opposed to with drugs?
It's a great question. It's not a straightforward answer because I've been in practice for 17 years and I have a lot of these.
Yes.
But let me just answer it more generally, okay?
Yeah.
It's my job to understand, if I'm identifying and treating the cause, the multitude of contributing factors to what brings somebody to present to my clinic. So the clinical presentation. And in our modern day, stress, as we've said, it's a contributing factor. People's dietary choices are sometimes a contributing factor.
Yes.
Alcohol, food, sleep, lack of nutrients, genetics can be in there. So it's looking at everybody in a very holistic, right,
Yes.
full picture way.
Right.
So in my medicine, here, take this is very easy. Your thyroid. Let's just pick on thyroid because it's a very prevalent condition, especially for women. Thyroid starts to underfunction. You go to a conventional Western doctor. I bet you in their scope, I know their scope. Your TSH is high. That means your thyroid is low, and you're going to get a medication called Synthroid. That is pretty much the protocol to do, and they're acting within their scope. For me, if you come to my office and you're a relatively healthy 30-some-year-old woman and your thyroid starts to underfunction, I'm going to want to ask, I wonder why, what's going on? We have to get to the root cause of that.
Right.
And so there are many causes in our modern day. Number one is an autoimmune disease. So we need to take that up, and that has to do with gut issues. The thing about my
Which
medicine,
could be dietary.
dietary,
Yep.
yes, and historically, and what in our microbiome, there's so
Right.
much rich research coming
right.
up about our microbiome. I ask people, I match the multiple contributing factors with multiple recommendations. So lifestyle interventions are going to be in there. Dietary recommendations are going to be in there. Sometimes in divided doses, multiple evidence-based clinical nutrition and or botanical medicines that we want to use. That's
Which
not,
would be like vitamin supplements and that
sure.
type of thing?
So dietary supplements, as far as
Herbs.
and then botanical medicines are plants. Yes, and so it's not really easy medicine. I'm actually asking a person to be involved, but when there's that engagement there, and you truly enter that partnership, and there's not just compliance, like I just did what Dr. Holly said. It's that adherence. Adherence means there's a faithful attachment to something. I want people to adhere to their, because they understand. That's where doctor in Latin, docere, means to teach. I want to be able to have solid rationale behind anything I recommend, and at the end of the day, know that it's my patient's choice. And I leave that. No doctor's
Right.
orders here. It's
Right.
like, this is what I think we should do. These are our best laid plans. Let's make sure we follow your body, because that is what's going to get us to the right, and the very and cases after cases after cases of this process. It's different, right? It's not just, here, take this. It's not going down to your pharmacy, paying the copay, taking that top off the bottle, taking your medication, and calling it a day, and that's your health care. It is that you are engaged
Right.
from a 360 perspective.
And so,
see how I got that
yeah,
360 in?
exactly. And when
360
people,
karma. That's right.
what I love is that instead of like conventional doctors where you go in and they give you about 30 seconds to 2 minutes to, it sounds like you do something very comprehensive, that you really get to know them and their lifestyle. And I don't care if they have depression or MS or cancer or whatever, you have integrative ways to address any issue.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And also in things like cancer or MS, I've seen people with cancer or MS. Now, one of the biggest jobs that I have, if somebody is going through a bout with cancer, if they have chosen conventional cancer treatments, radiation, chemotherapy, you can actually help that person outcome, because we can protect from, those are very powerful agents, right?
Yeah.
And they're life-saving.
Yeah.
But they're also very harmful to cells that we don't want to kill.
Right.
And so we can go in there and actually, that's the integrative part.
Yes.
With MS, it is a progressive disease. Let's do everything we can to identify where it started and also slow that progression.
Right.
Instead of just, okay, here, take this.
Yes.
So it is really about people being aware and being empowered that there are second opinions and a blend of the systems of medicine that you can choose from in order to get best outcomes for themselves.
I love that. Well, thank you for being on
Thank
today.
you so much for having me.
This is amazing information. I hope people reach out to Dr. Lucille, drhollylucille.com.
Yep.
And thank you for being here. You're doing amazing work.
You as well, getting the word
Yeah.
out there all across the airways. I love it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, my friend. We will be right back with Katrina Deaton. Stay tuned. Thank you for tuning in to the Live, Love, Thrive show, where we bring you powerful and positive programming about women and those who support women's empowerment. It seems by sharing their stories and showing us their talent and potential, they remind us of our own. We ask you to join us weekly by taking a minute to subscribe to our 360 Karma YouTube channel, so you get to see every episode of these uplifting and inspiring stories. We all need more of this, yes? And did you know we have the Live, Love, Thrive book on our 360 Karma website and on Amazon? If you enjoy reading books of incredible women who are doing amazing work in the world, you will want to pick up a copy. Also, when you join 360karma.com, you will enjoy our growing video content of expert advice and support, and learn about our workshops and our second annual Women's Conference in West Hollywood, November 3rd and 4th of this year. If you would like to align with a like-minded, purpose-driven community, you will feel at home at 360karma.com. We encourage and support you to live the life you love.
RTB Financial Group empowers women to raise the bar and take control of their financial future. For more information, visit rtbfinancialgroup.com or call Amanda Barr at 424-284-4216. The Live, Love, Thrive program is brought to you in part by Honda of downtown Los Angeles, supporting the equality and empowerment of women.
And we are back with Katrina Deaton. Hi, Katrina. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm great. I know that you moved here to LA from Philly.
Philadelphia.
Yeah, you know my friend Michelle Polino there.
I do.
The famous Michelle Polino from Fox News,
Very
who we love.
famous. Yeah.
Yeah.
Outstanding personality.
Oh,
for
yeah.
Sure.
Oh, never a dull moment with her. So, and how do you two know each other? You worked on a film together or something, right?
Well, we did actually, but we met prior to that. I had a film in the Philadelphia International Gay and Lesbian Film Festival. I don't even think it exists anymore, actually. I think it was Q-Fest, and then it went through some changes. It was a feature film called Underneath.
Yeah. Now, how old were you when you did that? In 2007, you were young, right?
Now you about to get me in trouble.
Yeah, 2007. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's a while ago.
Yeah,
That was 10 years ago.
We started, I think I was about 24.
Good for you. And you did your
24?
first feature film at 24.
Yeah, and I did
that's an inspiration.
Yeah, I did it with $3,000 and a lot of favors.
Yeah.
None sexual.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm glad we clarified that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I have a reputation for other things, of course.
So that particular film, because I want to talk about all the cool things that you're working on, your plays and your upcoming film, but let's talk about that first feature film. It was called Underneath.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, and it was kind of an autobiography of your coming out story.
Yeah, the title Underneath just comes from a place of like, we all project some sort of image. I mean, we're in the phase of social media where we project images all the time, and you have this character who projects an image that she wants her friends, family, and coworkers and everybody, she wants them to accept this image. And so when it comes down to it, behind closed doors, who is she underneath it?
I see.
And she was a very closeted homosexual with a lot of inner turmoil.
So in the beginning of the movie, you're not out.
No, not at all.
Yeah,
not at all.
And any of us in the gay community, most of us know what that feels like. It feels very unauthentic, and it's a big burden to carry when you're not out because you're pretending really to be something you're not. And it's a terrible place to feel fear of being who you really are and fear of rejection, whether it be from family or friends or coworkers. And so it's great that you did a movie about it. And so the storyline was that you came out?
Well, I think it wasn't really much about coming out, I don't want to be like back in those days, but back then I don't even think there was a language to what you called having affections or a certain draw towards somebody of the same sex. And I think when I was coming out, it's like I knew, since second grade, I always had this draw actually towards both, but I never really had the language because there weren't many images or people in my neighborhood that I saw that were gay or anything like that. So it was like when you brought it up.
Either. I relate to that.
Yeah, when you brought it up, it was like, oh, like nobody does that, or no, oh, okay, so you dismiss that part of yourself. So there isn't any language, no definitive things or qualities or just anything that you can associate yourself with. So within that, it's just like, I have these emotions, I have these feelings, I want to act out on them, but I don't really know what that is and what that looks like.
Oh, so in the movie, Underneath, you never did come out. It was just, this is what's underneath?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, wow, that's interesting.
I mean, the whole thing with coming out generally for me is just allowing people to see another side of myself. That is like, yes, I am drawn to whoever I'm drawn to.
Right.
And I have a preference. My preference is, females, of course.
Right.
But at the end of the day, I'm more drawn beyond all that to joy and
Right, to-
happiness
yeah.
and anybody who allows me
Yeah.
to have that and cultivate that and who nurtures
Right.
that.
I think that's a good place to be. I think it's
Yeah.
great when people can be attracted to either just for whatever the person is and what it brings them. I don't think everybody can be attracted to either, but I think some people can, and that's a wonderful gift. Yeah. So after doing Underneath, I guess you made that back in Philly?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
then you came to LA shortly thereafter? Or?
I actually did another production in Philadelphia, the Philadelphia Fringe. I moved from, like filmmaking to theater production.
Right. As long as you can write, right?
Yeah. Well, essentially, like I consider myself to be a storyteller, like / creator, and
Yeah.
the stories that come to me, they tell me how they want to be told.
Yeah.
What medium they want to be told in, and the way you tell it, like really does set the pace for that story.
I love what you just said, because there's people out there that feel that they're writers. And it is always interesting to have that conversation. Should something that they're writing be a play? Should it be a screenplay? Should it be a book? Should it be a song? And I think it's great that you can tap into your insides and know, okay, this feels like a play, or this feels like a movie. That's a good gift for people to be thinking about within their own selves. They know they want to write, but they don't always know in what genre, right?
Right. And I think with certain mediums, I love theater. I think theater has a certain rawness to it.
I love theater.
It's unapologetic, and I think it's the most unapologetic raw form.
Yeah, I'm going to New York in a couple weeks to see Broadway, and I mean, to me, that's like the ultimate
Yeah.
stage. Yeah,
I just came from there.
yeah. Oh, really?
I saw The Great Comet, I think it's
Oh,
called. Yes,
wow.
of
Was it
1812.
fabulous?
Yes, it was awesome.
Oh my
It was
gosh,
awesome. I recommend it.
I just love Broadway. I moved here from New York, and I'm just a total Broadway junkie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So is my girlfriend. She loves
Yeah.
Broadway too. Yeah.
So now you're moving in. Okay, so also you did another play, I remember, called
Right.
Kathy's Daughter,
Yeah,
which
that's
was
the
about
play.
your mom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, for the most part, the rawness that I was talking about, I tackled some really intense issues dealing with suicide and domestic violence.
Mm-hmm.
And I found that
And why? I mean, I think you said domestic violence because
Well,
it
yeah.
was in your household.
Yeah, I grew up
and
in
the
a home
suicide
in domestic violence home, and then I dealt with suicide
with.
myself. Yeah, like
with yourself.
yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I went through a period where suicide attempts were
Is that
were
because
done.
of the domestic violence?
I think everything adds to it, but I had a lot of things in my history that kind of like built up, and then when you don't deal with things, it catches up to you, and it can be, it's like a wave. It overwhelms you, and you almost drown in it when you don't deal with things as they come.
So for other people that might relate to this, that grew up with the domestic violence in their household like you did, how did you end up overcoming that monster? Like what work did you do?
A lot of therapy.
Yeah. Yeah. No, nothing like a good therapist.
A lot of therapy, a lot of writing.
That can be so cathartic, right?
Yeah.
So when you write these shows, that's cathartic to you.
Oh yeah, it's definitely a release. It's like like having like a really good bowel movement, if I can say that without being too crass.
No
but
shit.
yeah, it's like really taking a real good proper one, and then when you let it go, you let it go.
Right.
And Kathy's Daughter was one of those things because, when you have situations or you have topics like domestic violence, you always hear it from the person who's being abused.
Right.
You don't hear from the children who witness this throughout their lifetime and how it affects them.
So Kathy's Daughter is you.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
it's about your life in that spectrum. And this is a play. And so what is the gist of it?
Well, you have this this woman who is essentially in a hotel room contemplating suicide. And she takes the audience on her journey, all the things that happen in her life that kind of push her to this limit where she feels like she just cannot deal with life.
And this is you, and it's a true story. Yeah.
Yeah, for the most part. And pretty much she goes through these instances in her life, like, because it's set up like a one-woman show, but she has an ensemble cast that kind of reenact the things that happen in her life. So it opens up with a really, really intense scene of her mom being beaten by her stepfather. So
this was your stepfather, not your actual father?
no, not this story, no.
Oh, but in real life.
Yeah.
It was your father or your
Oh,
stepfather?
it was my stepfather.
I hear
But-
that a lot.
yes.
Yeah, a lot of times it's the stepfather. So your father, was he a cool guy or?
My father at this point wasn't in my life at the time.
I see.
He actually just recently entered my life about 3 years ago, 3 years ago.
Is that a good thing?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it is.
good.
I mean, you love people for who they are, and they
Yeah.
love you for the same, and you accept what they bring to your life,
Mm-hmm.
and you love them for that. And as long as it doesn't go against anything that you are, your energy, your vibe,
Mm-hmm.
and what's healthy and happy for you, then it's all good.
Is your mom still here?
No, my mom actually died. We celebrated 20 years. 20 years ago.
Oh, so
yeah.
she died when you were really young.
Yeah, she died when I was 16.
And how did that occur? Why did she die so young?
Well, it's a really trippy story that I'll make very short. But for the most part, they say coronary artery disease, but the situation was very, very, like, just not, the best. If I'm trying to, like, clean it up without really going into too much detail, but she was found, and when she was found, the rigor mortis had already set in completely. So there was some suspicion of something not so right with what actually happened.
Well, I can't imagine how traumatic that was for you, A, to lose her, and B, not to really know what happened.
Yeah.
So I can imagine there was a lot of therapy and writing
Yeah.
to,
Right.
kind of process that.
Right.
Yeah, so you really never know what happened.
Well, yeah. I mean, no.
Yeah.
I'll say no. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so I know that play, you have teamed up with domestic violence organizations.
Yeah, I teamed
Yeah.
up with American Suicide Prevention, the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, and Women in Transition.
Mm-hmm.
And the money that we got from the production, half of it went to both those organizations.
Well, that must have felt good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it did. And we actually did the suicide walk, prevention walk, I think like 2 weeks after we wrapped.
Oh,
So
that's
it was
cool.
a beautiful thing. And it was just really about spreading the awareness of things that are really kind of taboo that we don't
What I
really
love
talk
about your work is that everything you do, and we'll talk about more stuff, everything you do is to help tell stories to move and educate people about things that are difficult to talk about, whether it's domestic violence or suicide. And then we're going to talk next about your next short project, which I think is fascinating, which is called About Face. Mm-hmm. And I know you're both working on a play and on this short. And About Face, I found it fascinating in that it's about a white man and a black woman switching places.
Right, yeah.
So that the white man can see what it's like to be in this world as a black woman, and that as a black woman you get to see what it's like to be in this world as a white man. Now,
Yeah.
how did you come up with this concept, and what's the story
Well,
behind that?
it's been brewing for a while. I think it's kind of crazy because the way in which like I grew up, people were always telling me that my life would be better than the average person of color because I had curly hair and my hair was long and I had my complexion was lighter. So people already created stories for my life before they even asked me
Yeah.
what my life
Yeah.
was like. And
Isn't it interesting too, as human beings, we meet people and we become friends with them and we don't even know their backstory or what
Yeah.
they've been through.
We judge people all the time. We look at somebody and we say, "Oh, we know that person."
Right. So
It happens all
is
the
the
time.
point that even a white male could have some backstory that is difficult?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Pretty much. And I think, it's two sides of the coin. I mean, we know how this country is. We know, how impartial they can be
Yes.
to gender and
Yeah.
race and things like that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it is fair to approach every person as an individual and talk to them and get to know their story before
Absolutely.
you just give them their story for them.
Yeah, that's what I
And-
love about doing this show. I absolutely love the diverse array of people that I meet that share their story, because everybody's story is amazing and interesting and extraordinary. Everybody has had their different trials and tribulations. Nobody in this lifetime have I found yet, and I've interviewed, over 100 women, that nobody's not had some obstacles to overcome.
Right.
It's just a matter of which ones were they.
Right.
And then the second part of it is, how did they deal with it?
Right.
Did they let it take them down, or did they overcome it? And I think it's really cool that you write about things to be cathartic about things.
That, and I think we sometimes get caught up in the who suffers worse than whom. Mm-hmm. My friend says it best when she says, like, I don't want to enter into the tragedy Olympics.
Yeah.
like I don't want to get into arguments with people over like who suffered more. When that's
one contest I don't want to win.
The bigger picture is that nobody should suffer.
Exactly.
Nobody should face these trials and tribulations in their lifetime. And although it makes us better people, at the end of the day, we're grateful and we share. That's the whole thing, that we share our experiences in order to become greater.
So I know you're still looking for funding for this short film called About Face that we're just talking about, and they could reach you at About Face the movie?
The film.
Face
the
film at gmail.
.com.
Yeah, I'd like to see you get funding for that, because it sounds like a really important film to make. And I know it doesn't take a huge budget, because obviously you've done a lot with a little. So
always. When there's a will, there's a way.
Yeah, when you're an artist, whether you're writing or making a film, it's really tough. It's a tough struggle, because it's important for there to be art like this that's impactful and meaningful, and yet I don't know why it's so hard to raise money. I had this conversation with a friend of mine the other day about, they'll pay celebrities and basketball players $1 gazillion, but gosh, give a filmmaker or a great writer or art painter, and they're struggling. Why is that? More money should definitely be put toward the arts, and I don't know how we're ever going to fix that, but we certainly need to work on that.
Yeah, I mean, I think they feel like it's a gambling game. Everybody's going to go see a game, a basketball game.
Yeah.
But art is very subjective.
Yes.
And what people want to see and what people connect with is up in the air.
Yeah.
And so for that reason, I don't really consider the work that I do to be important. I think what's most important is what people take from the content and what they choose to do.
Yeah.
How they choose to be like pillars in their community or whatever have you. But I could just put the art out there, and the decision is left up to the viewer.
Absolutely. And then just lastly, I just want to mention the other theater piece that you're working on. The name of it is...
Labidity.
Labidity, yeah.
Yes,
I was like, I know I'll screw this up. So.
No, it's okay. It's Labels, Titles, and Identity. It actually had a small short run in the LA Fringe last year.
Yeah.
It's pretty much a comedian. It's set up the same way as Kathy's Daughter, like a one-woman show, but with an ensemble cast.
Right. And you like writing comedy.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
Dark comedy.
Yeah,
the darker, the better.
Yeah.
The more that we can laugh about the things that pain us, the easier it is to get through it together.
Absolutely.
So pretty much you have a comedian who's basically saying, I hate labels, titles, and identity. This character, of course, a woman of color. She was never black enough. She was never feminine enough. And she was never gay enough. So she's like, forget it all.
Yeah.
And she has different, instances from her life and things, her thoughts just come to life with this ensemble cast behind her. And it's a great ride.
I love that. I love that. And people could visit your website to see when you're going to be doing that show?
Well, I don't have a website set up, but they can always follow me on Instagram and Facebook. Katrina, Katrina, Jolie, Joli, no space in between.
Where did I get Deaton?
Well, Deaton's my my last name. That's my government name.
Oh, gotcha. But you go by Katrina Jolie.
Jolie, yeah.
Oh, okay, good. Okay.
Yeah.
Good thing we let everybody know that. So that's how they'd find you on Facebook.
Yeah, or Instagram.
Love it.
Absolutely, and they can follow what I'm doing.
You obviously are so talented. Everybody has a gift, and yours is writing, and it's nice that you use it for such meaningful plays and films, and just keep doing that wonderful work.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it's such a beautiful thing.
Thank you.
So we are going to be back next week with Dr. King will be back on, Dr. Jerry King from Time Magazine Person of the Year. And you won't want to miss that. So be sure to subscribe to us on YouTube or follow us on your favorite podcast. We really appreciate you tuning in, and make it a great week. Hugs and happiness.